Hi, I'm Holly from Accrual Mistress Bookkeeping and Consulting, and today I thought we could take a few minutes to go over the process of customizing your invoices in QuickBooks Online. Now, they did just kind of rearrange the way invoices appear and where customization is located as part of the most recent overhaul that they did, which has been rolled out gradually to users over the last, say, 6 or so months here. So if you aren't yet seeing this new version, just know that that might be coming your way. They were still allowing some people to opt out of the new experience, but I have noticed more and more they are pushing people towards it. So do just be aware of that. But let's go ahead and talk about how we can customize our invoices to make sure that they reflect our brand voice, our brand colors, and also that they give our clients the information that we want them to have. So in order to navigate to the invoices, we'll go up here to the plus create button and then select invoice. From there, what we'll want to do is we'll want to go ahead and click the manage button right here with the gear icon next to it. That pops out this separate window, and I'll go ahead and move myself over here. That pops out a separate window where we can then build out the customization of what this invoice actually looks like. Okay, so right here we can see we have automatic control over the information that shows up at the top. I will go ahead and put in a sample customer just so that we have a little bit more data and so that we can see what happens as we toggle these various fields on and off. So you can see right here, we have a bill to and a ship to box, but there is no ship to information. And perhaps you're not sending any items to customers, so a ship to box is unnecessary. If you don't need a field, you can simply toggle it off, and then that information goes away and you're left with just what you actually need, okay? You can also say, I want to have the invoice date as well as the due date visible. You can decide that you want to show terms to the customer, but you can toggle all of these on and off so that your invoice really does look the way that you would like it to. You can also, if you notice right here, add a logo. This is something I definitely recommend doing as a small business because it will make your invoice look more professional as a whole, okay? Now, this all has to do with the information that shows up here in the top of the invoice. But once we scroll down, we have a whole bunch of additional information that is available to us. And that is all editable under the table content section here. Okay, so you can see we have product and service, description, rate, and amount all toggled on. So they are all showing in this grid here. But we can add additional fields. So we can add a field for service date if that is something that is pertinent for your company or product. We can also add a quantity if we would like. Again, that may be something that's pertinent or it might not be. But you do have a great deal of leeway as to what you can add or take away here. One thing that I will say about any of this is that obviously we want to give the customer all the information that they need to know what they're paying for and why, but we might not want to clutter it up with unnecessary information. And all of these changes that we're making, all of these toggles on and off will be applied to all of your invoices going forward. So just know that and do your best to capture a data set that is going to make the most sense for each of your clients. All right, so the next section where we can go ahead and build some customization into our invoices is actually under payment options here. Now, to be honest, if I were you, I probably wouldn't set up payment options in this section. You can set up your payment options as part of your overall QuickBooks Online infrastructure. And there are so many pros and cons and different things that you can do with this that could basically be its own video. I won't be doing a deep dive into that right now. But do just know that if you choose to use QuickBooks for your merchant processing, you can accept all different kinds of payments. They've even, you can see, added PayPal and Venmo as different methods that customers can use to pay you. And these will all be deposited into your bank account, same as if you had a different merchant processor. And one benefit of that is that, of course, since it is all being done through QuickBooks, that makes the whole accounts receivable process a bit easier. It's going to match payments up with the invoices that they belong to, and it's going to make that full process flow better. But one thing to keep in mind here is you can see, your processing days are kind of a lot of time, 15 days predicted for credit cards and Apple Pay, 17 days predicted for bank transfers, and 10 days predicted for PayPal or Venmo. Now, once you set up your merchant account and once they've kind of started this process, your payment processing times will go down. And there are additional ways that you can get your money more quickly through QuickBooks, one of which is by using the QuickBooks Online checking account. If you have the QuickBooks Online checking account and that is where you are having your money deposited, you usually get your money same day. So that's actually a pretty great deal and a possible reason to use this system. But like I said, that is only part of this. And since that is something that is so very individual to everybody, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that here and now. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next section for customizing your invoices. All right, so the next section where we can build in some customization on our invoices is on design, okay? So if we expand this design tab right here, we can not only change the template of our invoice and make it look a little bit different, but we can also change the overall look and feel, such as by using a custom color. Now, you can see here, you can actually enter a code or you can try one of these pre-selected colors that QuickBooks offers you. And you can see that makes a change not only in the invoice word up at the top, but also in this section where you have a bit of shading, okay? So that really can, again, just impact that feel of the invoice and you want it to match your overall brand. So for my business, I have my specific color code that's used in my invoice and everything like that. And I also use it for this shading and this word invoice up here in bold print. It just makes the invoice tie together and look polished and professional. So another thing you have the option to do here is you can change your font, okay? They're all pretty similar. I would say that they're all very standard. You're not likely to find, a script font of any kind here. They're all pretty bold, standard types to make it clear and easy to read. But if one of them happens to coincide with your overall brand, that can be a really great way to tie that into this overall invoice. All right, the last section of invoices that we can kind of add a little bit of customization to is scheduling here, okay? So depending on your level of subscription for QuickBooks Online, you can choose to make invoices recurring. You can also choose to send them later or print them later, and you also have the option to turn on automatic invoice reminders. Again, this is something that I use in my business because I don't always remember if customers haven't paid invoices, and it's nice to just know that QuickBooks is automatically sending them email reminders if they don't pay for a period of time. It's a helpful tool that can kind of help take collections off of your plate. The last thing that I'll say here as far as customization of an invoice, and we looked at a bunch of things here and you can see there are some notes and other items, and I'll show you where you can change those in just a moment. But while we're still on this page, I do recommend not only looking at the invoice here, but toggling through these various menus, because that's going to show you what this invoice actually looks like at different stages. So if I click here, it's going to show me what it looks like when a customer receives this email, okay? This is what it's going to look like when the customer opens up their email. It's going to say, congratulations, your invoice is ready, and then it's going to give you the option to view the details and pay that invoice. Then we have the payment screen. What does that end up looking like? And we can see that here. This is one of those things where it's really nice to see what your customer sees and make sure that it represents what you would like to see. I actually went through this when I first started my business. I had inadvertently, because QuickBooks asked me what my business address was, and I had my business set up as a home-based business, I had put my home address because that was what was showing on my business license. And it turned out that my home address was actually showing up as the customer facing address. So thank goodness I checked that before I started sending out invoices. I was able to edit that and make sure that it showed my mailing address, which was a PO box, not my home residential address. So highly recommend looking at this and making sure that the data that is showing is what you want your customers to see. So the final thing here is we can look at the PDF view of the invoice, and this is what that invoice is going to look like when a customer downloads it. So again, we want to make sure that whatever we're sending out is representative of what we want our customers seeing and that it reflects our brand, voice, and identity to maintain continuity. All right, so one of the last places where we can make some tweaks as to how our invoices appear to our customers is actually going to be located up here in the big gear icon in the very upper right-hand corner of your screen. So if I go here and click on the big gear icon and go to Account and Settings, this is where I can then start to manage the information that's showing up on my invoices. So from this left side navigation, I'm going to want to click on Sales, and this is going to take me to the detailed breakdown of information that is going to show up on different sales forms that I have, okay? So you can see there's an awful lot here, and if it would be beneficial to your business, I definitely recommend going through here, looking at the options, and figuring out what you want to show on your sales forms. But I'm going to go over a few of the broad settings that you can change here to help customize how your invoices appear. So first and foremost, if you want to accept online payments, this is where you go to set that up. Okay, so you can do that by clicking Activate or by clicking the little pencil here and starting to enter that information. When it comes to other automatic items, if you want to have late fees automatically assessed against people's invoices, you can choose to turn that on here. If you want to do progress invoicing, this is where you would go to turn that on. Now let's talk about what we can customize here specifically for the invoices. So one of the first things is the messages. If I click the little pencil icon here, this is going to be where I can customize how that email message comes across, okay? So I might not want to say dear to my customers. I might want to say to or blank or just not have a greeting, okay? And that is totally customizable. I can choose to have that show up however I would like. We can then update the payment request information. So it'll say new payment request from accrual mistress training file invoice, and then it will automatically put in the invoice number. Okay. One thing that I tend to like to do, and I have this set up for my own file, is I have it send a copy of the email to my company email as well. That way I see that the invoice has gone through, that the email came through, and if there are any errors, that tends to be a nice little double check. You can also opt to CC or BCC invoices that you're sending out to other email addresses. And then we have a couple other places where we can customize information. First of all, if we would like to send out automatic reminders, we can do so. Oh, I won't save the information up there. We can do that by going here, and we can say when we want our automatic invoice reminders to go out. Okay, so, these seem pretty reasonable. We have 3 days before the due date, on the due date, and 3 days after. We can choose to turn those on or off by selecting them here. Okay, so we can just toggle reminder 1 on, and then here we are, we can edit the message and get that up and running. One of the other sections where we can kind of customize what goes out on the invoices is right down here. So if we have clients where we might be sending them an invoice once a month and they may or may not pay on time, we could choose to have a statement showing up on our invoice, and that will show them everything that they currently owe to us plus the current, and that'll show up on the bottom of the current invoice that we're sending out. So that's a really great little tool to help remind clients how much they actually owe us. So once you have entered all of the fields that you want customized on your invoice and changed them in this section, you do want to be sure to save the changes that you've made and then click Done in the bottom right-hand corner here. And that will implement the changes you made onto the future invoices that you create.